So in the last couple of videos, I showed you how to create a character in Fuse and then import it into Mixamo. And once you have it inside of Mixamo, you can add any type of animations. So you have to think about your scene and choose different animations that you want to combine together. If I click in place here, you want to make sure that if you download, say, an animation for running, that it makes it easier for me to see it by clicking in place, but that actually would not look good in your animation because he's just doing a cycle and he's not moving anywhere. So unless you're on a treadmill, make sure that you can actually turn this off before you download it. And so I actually downloaded one, forgot to turn that off, and it wasn't actually moving in my animation inside of Maya once I opened it, and so I had to go and redo it again and fix that. So anyway, keep that in mind. This character actually doesn't have the texture map on it because I imported the one that I showed in the last video back into Mixamo again after I had a different character as my main character in here. And importing the FBX back in is a good thing to do because all your pivot points will be the same. So if you want another animation and you forgot to download it earlier, you can do that. The most important thing is that the pivot points are going to be the same so that the animations will sync up on the same character. The texture maps, however, don't come in when you import the FBX back in that you exported out earlier. And that's fine. It doesn't matter. We don't need the texture maps for just grabbing another animation. So make sure you download all your animations the way I did in the last video. And if you need to look at that video again, go ahead and take a look at it. They should all have the same setting when you do a download. In my case, I was using 24 frames per second. And for animations, you don't want the skin. So make sure you do that. And that actually creates a lot of very small files. So here you can see the animations that I downloaded. They're actually in my assets folder of my Maya project. And so the main one that has the skin is called Surfer Dude 2, and you see it's 23 megabytes. And all these other ones are less than a megabyte, and they're just the animation without the skin. And you can see that here is a fast run and then a fast run fix. So the fast run, I accidentally left that button turned on and he was running in place. So I had to go back and download another one with him not running in place. Otherwise, it's just difficult to, if it would be more difficult for me to try to animate him to run without having any foot sliding or anything like that, than for me to just go back and download it again. So, okay, we're going to now go into Maya again. And what I want to do here is show you the end result of those animations that I just downloaded. So if I play this, you'll see that he kind of idles in place, and then he crouches, he gets hit by something, so he kind of stumbles, and then he catches his balance and starts running, doing the fast run. So he gets hit, and then he corrects himself and starts running fast towards the camera. So this is about 4 or 5 different animation sequences that I put together in here. And I want to show you how to do that in the time editor. If we look on the left-hand side here, this is all being done through the time editor, and we have these different sources, and there's my idle and my fast run and being hit, and everything is all in there as different source animations. So I'm going to go ahead and do a new scene and import those animations into here. So the first thing, of course, which I did in the last video, is I want to import the character with the model. And so it's kind of important that when you do this, you're going to make sure that you set the right settings in the FBX import settings. So make sure that you have FBX turned on. And if you find that you can't find FBX, look at the last video. You can go to your preferences and you can load that up in the plugins. Once you have it, you want to come in here and edit the preset. And we're going to choose Add and Update Animation to bring in the very first model that has the T-pose of the character. The other thing that I want to set on here, make sure you have animation turned on. There is not really much animation on this one, just a keyframe for the T-pose at 0. And then under Advanced Options Units, you're going to turn off Automatic, and you're going to put on Feet. So we're going to use File Units Converted to Feet as the scale factor. And then just go ahead and close that and click Import. Now I have all of my different files inside of Assets in the scene or the project file. And so here they are. And the one that I want to do first is the model, which is 22 megabytes, 22.7 megabytes. And I can double check my import settings over here. You can see that I'm using Add and Update Animation under Include, and animation is checked. And down here, I have it set to scale factor of feet. And I'm going to go ahead and import that. And you see that it comes in at a good scale. It's not too big and not too small. And if we open it up, we see it brought it in under a group. And now would be a good time for me to name that, maybe Surfer Dude. And I'll go ahead and turn on my texture mapping, and I can see that his textures are all there. They came in perfectly because I uploaded them to Mixamo through the zip file. And we can, in the last video, we checked that in the materials. So go look at that video if you want to see that. But they're all there and they look good. We have this large joint. It's a skeleton joint for the hips, and that's actually good because it makes it easy to find that one, because you select that one a lot. It's really big and it's easy to select. The other ones are normal size. You can see those by turning on your X-ray joints under shading, and you'll see all the other skeletons are the correct size for this character. And you'll notice also that in the outliner it says Mixamo rig : hips and spine and left up leg. So it's put this this what's called name spacing on it, and it's a prefix And that's actually a good thing because it will sort of separate it from other skeletons that we might have in here. It also it happens automatically. So if it happens, that's your namespace. When you bring in your other animations, they come in with skeletons as well. And if they have the same namespace, they'll just automatically go on this character, which is what you want. One other thing I'm going to do really quick before I do anything else, I don't really have any frames, or my timeline has just got one frame on it. So I'm going to go ahead and put about 250 on here. And that way, when I bring in my animations, we'll actually be able to scrub through them. So there's only one frame on this character right now, and it's at 0 for the T-pose, and we want to record that. So where you're going to do everything in here for recording the different clips that you bring in is going to be under Animation Editor's Time Editor. And we're going to open up the Time Editor, and this is what it looks like. And you're going to add things into here. So what I want to do is have that hips, that top of the very top or root joint of the skeleton is called Mixamo rig : hips. And that's what we want to select to bring in this pose. We need to record this pose. And so to record it, you're going to go to File in the Time Editor, and you're going to choose Add Pose from Scene Selection. And you're going to open up this options box and go ahead and give it a name. We'll call this one T-pose. And you see that it's got 585 attributes that it's taking from the skeleton. So that means that it is taking all of the different channels from all the joints in the skeleton. That's good because it's got Include Entire Hierarchy checked on. So it's just going to go through and find all of them. So go ahead and apply that. Apply and close. And it creates a single pose on 0 there that you can see in there. And it actually saved it over here. It created a little Time Editor node in my outliner. And if you open that up, you've got compositions and you've got sources. And all your stuff is going to come up in the sources. So we can rename the composition here. This particular composition is for the surfer dude. That's the character we're working with. So we'll just go ahead and do that. We'll just call it surfer dude comp. And down here you can see it took the name and it says T-pose _ NM source. So it actually has been saved over here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it on my timeline because I want to bring in all the other ones too, all the other animations. And if you have animations in your timeline when you try to import them, sometimes it doesn't take. So I'm just going to delete that. It's already been saved over here. And as you do this, you probably should do a Save Scene As and just keep saving. We'll call this Surfer Dude Demo Video 1, and we'll save it. All right, so I want to bring in all my other animations before I start putting them together here on the timeline in the Time Editor. So I'll go ahead and import again. And here's where you want to go and change your settings, your import settings. You're going to go to Edit Prefix, And it's always going to be up here at the top under include file content. You're going to change that based on what you're bringing in. So if I'm bringing in an animation that doesn't have a skin or anything, doesn't have a model, then I just want to update the animation. I don't want to add it because it will actually make it separate from the character that I just brought in. But if I use update animation, it will actually add it to the current character that I have in my scene that is in my composition. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I don't have to change anything else. I want to leave it at file units feet and make sure animation is turned on. So I'm only changing that one option at the top to update animation. I'm closing it, and I'll go ahead and import. And the first one that I would import is the idle, and I'll go ahead and do that. And I should see the character go into his idle pose. And if I go and select the hips again, I should see a bunch of red keyframes there. It's keyframing when you export it from Mixamo, it's a baked animation, which means that it has a keyframe on every single frame. And that's fine. That's going to be the most accurate. And we'll go ahead. That's pretty much standard for motion capture animation. We'll go ahead and bring that in here to the time editor. So to bring it into the time editor, we'll do this similar thing to what we did. We'll go to File again, but this time we're going to use Add Animation from Scene Selection instead of Add Pose. And go ahead and open the options box for that. I have my hip selected. I'll give it a name. We'll call it Idle. If we want to be specific to the character, we could call it Surfer Idle or something like that, but I'm just going to use Idle for now, and I'll apply and close it. You can see that there's 162 attributes that are being captured to this clip. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. Now we see it's there, and if I move this out of the way a little bit, let's just try to scale it. And we'll just put it up here without docking it or anything. And let's just go to this guy. We'll zoom out a little bit and put him right there so we can see him. And the animation is there. Now if we play it, we can see what the animation looks like. He kind of taps his foot a couple of times. Okay, so the idle animation's there. Looks good. I can see that it's over here saved under my sources. So I can delete it out of the actual time editor, and I can bring in another one. And so this is the process that you're going to use, not the import under the time editor. Up here, the regular import. I'm going to go to File, Import, open up my options, and I don't really need to actually go to Edit Preset anymore, because if I check it, it still says Update Animation. And all of these animations don't have any skin, so I can use the same setting for all of them. I just need to hit Import and choose the next one. So I want him to crouch next. I'm going to pick the crouch one, and I'm going to import that. And I can see that he crouches down. And so once that's there, then I can select the hips. I can see the keyframes are there. And then I just need to bring it over by going to File, Add Animations from Scene Selection. I don't really need to even open my options. If I'm doing a bunch of these, I can just do it. And there it is. I can check it. He's basically starting crouch, and he gets up into his running pose or his running sequence. And I can check over here and see that it's over there. Now, it actually, I forgot to name it that time, so because I didn't open the options. But you can just go over here, you can double click it, and you can just select that, part, and we'll call this one crouch. Crouch to run, I'll call it that. Enter. So, you know, if you don't open your options, you don't have that, you can't name it in the options box, then you just name it down here after you capture it, and then you can delete the one that you have in here. And I'll just do the same thing again. I'll just keep doing the same thing. So file, import, and choose. I'm not even going to go to my options again for this. I'm just going to choose the next one, which is going to be he gets hit by something. So we'll import that. So he starts out running. I'll check the hips. The animation's there. We'll go here. We'll add animation from scene selection. Now it's in here. I can see I have a new clip. I'll go ahead and name it right now to get hit. Enter. And then, you know, I should check it and make sure it looks like it's the right thing and it didn't get any problems in the translation. So it looks good. He gets hit, and then he kind of writes his balance. So we'll go ahead and delete that in here. We'll go back to 0, and we'll do one more. So I'll go to import one more time. We'll choose the fast run. I called it fast run fix actually because I originally had the fast run that I forgot to turn off the running in place button inside of Mixamo, so I went back and fixed that. We'll import that. He should be in his running pose. If we check here, he's got animation. We can go to File, Add Animation. Now it's in there. We can check it and make sure it looks right. And then we'll just go and rename it. I'll just call it Fast Run. All right, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different clips in there now, and one of them is the T-pose. And I can then start to pull these out and make a sequence out of them using the time editor. So we probably want to position this guy so I'll be able to see him. I'll delete the one that I have in here, or I don't even have to delete it. I can just sort of move it down because it's going to be the last one that I bring in. So if I pull this down a little bit, I can pull in the first one, which needs to be the T-pose. So I'm going to take the T-pose, and you can middle mouse button drag it from over here in the outliner up here onto your timeline and just place it right there on 0. So 0 is the best place to have your T-pose because you don't render 0, you start your render from 1, and you're going to need that T-pose when you want to later on create a control rig for this so we can actually do some adjustments on top of the motion capture animation. So once you do that, we placed it, then we'll go to the next frame, which should be frame 1. And on frame 1, I'm going to pull over the idle animation and just drop that in there. So I apparently got a little bit of a mistake there. Let's try that again. I'm using the middle mouse button. I'm dragging it up here, and we'll drop it. Okay, there we go. I think I dropped it right on top of that other clip, and so it was trying to combine them or something. So Now it looks fine. I do want to butt that one up against it. I don't want it to start at 0, but I want it to start at like 1. And I might need to zoom in a little bit here and use my Alt key to drag over so I can actually see this a little better and get a little bit closer to it. So I've got 0 T-pose and then 1. He starts his idle animation. And so what I do with this idle animation is up to me. I may not just want one idle here. I may want a couple of different ones. And I could repeat this. You have different controls up here. One of them is to scale the timing on it. Another one is to create loops. And the other one is to just add some extra frames that are hold frames on the front or back. I think what I want to do actually is maybe have him kick the ground a little bit, and then he's going to kick it again, maybe a little sooner than not like just adjust his stance, but maybe right here I want him to do that whole thing again, maybe at a slightly different rate or something. So I have these things up here where I can split the clip, or I can trim off the front or the end. I'm going to trim off the end here. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull the clip out again, same idle clip, drop it, and then what I want to do is I'm going to maybe retime that clip with the scale one here. Allows me to make it faster or slower. And I think what I want to do is I want to make it a little bit slower. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and maybe just pull that out a little bit there. You can see this one's moving. It's because I've got this ripple effect on. I can turn that off, and then this one won't move. So if I pull it out, it's actually going to slow it down a little bit. So this one will be a little faster, and then that one will be a little slower. And I think that once I do that, I want to overlap these so we get a little bit of a transition. And we can pull that out a little bit more. And then I can just play it and see what that looks like. So he kind of kicks the ground, and then he's going to do it again. And, you know, that may or may not be the right timing. I might want to adjust it or do something a little different to that. I could make it faster by pulling this really far back, and then it's going to speed up a lot. So he kicks the ground, then he kicks it much faster. Actually, that looked kind of good. It made him look kind of impatient. And I can overlap these a little bit more and see what that looks like. So actually, it becomes almost like he's just continuously kicking the ground. Like he has something on his shoe. Okay, so we've got a couple of idles in there, and then I'm just going to continue on here to the crouch. So I'm going to pull in a crouch, the crouch sequence, again, middle mouse button, drag it up here, and I want to put it right there. And it's a really fast move. You can see he really drops fast. So I probably do want to use the scale tool here and just pull it out a little bit and slow it down a little bit. He's still going to jump down pretty quickly. So to make it so that I have a little bit easier transition between these, since there's a pretty big jump between him being on the ground and standing up, I might actually want to go to this one, which adds this tool here adds a hold mode, and if I pull this out, it'll add just a hold frame a little bit on the end of that one, and then I can go back and add a little bit on this one, and that will allow me to maybe overlap these a little bit more. I'll go back and move it and just overlap them so that the transition is going to be a little bit more smooth. Now, his feet are still sliding a lot, so it might be a good idea actually for me to do a relocator on that. So on his feet, I'll zoom in a little bit on him. You have this thing called relocate match relocators, and that can take a body part and sort of lock it down between the two clips. And I'm going to go ahead and bring make sure his joints are back on, and I want to grab this foot right here. So I'm going to click on that right foot, because if I look at these two clips, that foot is pretty close in both clips. The other foot moves a lot, but his right foot, and I can see it's the right foot by just opening up the hierarchy to see the one that I've selected here. I can see that right foot is pretty close on both of those, and they're both planted somewhat. They rotate, but they're in the same place. So it would be a good idea for me to go ahead and use that foot as my relocator. And so you make sure that foot's selected, and then I go in and I select the second clip that I want to match with the earlier clip. And I'll go ahead and go to relocate match relocators, and it automatically, because I had that right foot selected, automatically brings it in. If it didn't, I could click this button and bring it in. It shows me that my root is the hips node, and that's fine. It's the same for both of them, both clips. And then I'm going to match with the previous clip. So I have this second crouching clip selected. I want to match with that previous clip. And then the timing, I probably want to sort of put it in between both of the clips. So I'm going to use in between clips. And then I already know that I want to turn the rotation off. If I use the previous clip like I am, and I have the rotation turned on, then it will actually take the rotation of the previous clip, and he'll run off. I'll actually show you. So I'll go ahead and do it. And when he crouches, he's going to be facing in the wrong direction, because he was looking in this direction down the z-axis, and now he's kind of looking down the x-axis. So he's going in the wrong direction now. I want him to go down this way in the z-axis. So so I'm going to find the node that was created over here. It's called crouch to run relocator, and I'm going to delete it. And he goes back to the way he was. And I'm going to select the foot again, select the clip again, and go to match relocators. And this time, it brings it in just like it did before, but I want to say none for rotation. So it's going to take the rotation of that second clip, which is facing in this direction. And I'll go ahead and match it. And so if I look at it, I'm going to see now that that foot is rotating a little bit more in place, and he's facing in the right direction. And it's going to happen so fast. There's a little bit of sliding there, but if I play it, it's going to happen so fast it looks like he just crouches. And it's a little bit slow. Let me pull the timing back a little bit on it. I think it's a little slow. Let's try it again. Okay, that's pretty good. Now I might want to try some other things. There's still a lot of foot sliding going on there. I could delete that one again and try another setting. Maybe try one of the other match settings. But I think it's, like I said, it's pretty fast. I think it's going to be okay. Now I'm going to go on to the next one, which is the, and by the way, I can correct some of that stuff later on too when I create the control rig for this. So I want to bring in the next clip, which is going to be the one where he gets hit. So that should happen like right here. We'll go ahead and it's called get hit animation, and we'll pull it over. And again, I think I didn't quite get it in the right place here. Let's try it again. I don't know why it's... There we go. So let me move this guy down a little bit. So this is the one where he actually gets hit and knocked off to the side. And so I want to look at the foot that's being planted, which is his right foot again. And he's kind of running through it. And then on the next one, I can see that he's planted in that one on the right foot as well and running through it. So those are going to match up really, really well. He's actually running in the same direction too, so that's going to work out very well as well too. So I'm going to go ahead and do the match for that, the relocator match. So just select your right foot again in this case, because that's the one that's planted. You can see that these two animations are not at the same place in 3D space. The one where he gets hit is starting back at the 0 point, at the origin point, and he's kind of forward on this one. And so that's why you have to match these, because otherwise it's going to keep popping back in 3D space. So we select this one, go to relocate, match relocators again. We have the right foot selected. That came in automatically. And then we want to go in. And this time, I am going to put on rotation because he is in the same rotation in both clips. So it should work out fine there. And whether I want to use in between or one of these other ones, I think in between should work fine. Again, this is for timing. So sort of the blend is going to be right, sort of evenly distributed between the two times of these clips. Let's go ahead and match that. There's a little bit of shifting going on there, but that's, I think, because he's about to be hit. Actually, no, that's because we haven't blended it all yet. So that's happening between those two separate clips there. So we need to blend that a little bit. And if I look at this from the side again, I can sort of see that the foot is planted and then the foot is planted. It actually is pretty close to blending okay. But I need to move this back just a little bit and maybe overlap them to get just a slightly better blend there. So that he plants, and then he's going to get hit. Let me just orbit this and see if it looks better from this angle. So he plants, and then he gets hit off like that. And that looks pretty good. If I play it, let's see what it looks like timing-wise. So he's idling a couple times, crouches, and then he gets hit. I still don't like the way the crouch is happening there. There's too much movement going on between those two clips. And maybe it's just because it's a little too slow. I really did pull that out a bit. So I'm going to put ripple on again, and I'm going to pull this timing back a little bit to make that crouch happen a little faster. And you see with ripple on, it's going to pull that other clip with it, so I don't end up messing up or separating those. I added a lot of stuff at the beginning of this to blend them, and that might also be causing a little bit of issue there. I might have added too much. So I could take this whole thing and move it back off again. Let me just zoom in here, make sure I'm getting the I want this clip, yeah. There we go. So you can see that I have a lot of extra frames there, and I think that might be what's causing the problem, why it's looking a little bit like it's too much. So I'm going to reduce that a little bit, and then I'm going to move this back, put them over again, and see if that helps that problem. And play it. That's better. I think I added a little bit too many frames there. So if I play that, he crouches and then he starts to run and he gets hit. Okay, so you can open up the frames there so you can see them, but it's really not that useful for motion capture data like this. Okay, so I've got him being hit, and now I want him to sort of recover and start running. Fast. And at the end of this clip, he kind of just stops. So I don't want to use that part. I want to find where he's kind of planted again, because if I look at this running clip, it's again his right foot, which is planted at the beginning of that clip. So if I go back and find a place where his foot is planted and he's kind of coming onto it, like right there, then that would probably be a good place to add that other clip. So I'll trim off the end of this one. Whoops. Undo that. So again, I'm right there. That's kind of where I want it. And I had the other one selected when I trimmed, so it kind of cut that one instead. But I want to trim this one right here. So trim off the end of it. And we can move this one back. I'll just turn ripple off for a second and move this back. Now that one's starting way back in the way back over here. So for me to actually see it working right, I need to make sure the foot's selected, select the clip, and do another match relocator. And I think I do want to use rotation this time. And in between clips, yeah, I think that's probably fine again. Yeah, I use that for a lot of them. Well, let's just try it. Okay, now he's running from that position. You can see that foot stays planted between the two clips. And we can smooth that out a little bit more by moving them on top of each other a little bit. And I probably want to zoom in because I don't want to really move these too much on top of each other, because they actually look pretty good. And maybe he's going to start off slow and then speed up. So if I, for instance, pull out another fast run sequence, and take this one that I have here and pull it out to make it a little slower. You know, maybe he's going to speed up. So we'll take this one, and you know, that's going to be back at the origin again. So I'm going to need to make sure the foot's selected and match it again. And I'm going to use all the same settings. Now he's going to run from that position. And I almost don't even need, because these two clips are made to be cycled, I almost don't even need to overlap them at all. There's not really any, I could maybe do a little overlap, but it's pretty synced up. So if I look at what the sequence I have here, the whole sequence, I've got starting with an idle, or starting with the T-pose, we go into an idle a couple times, then we crouch, we get hit, and then we start to run. And you can see that actually the run there is a little bit of abrupt right there. So I think it needs to be fixed a little bit. And so I want to zoom in on this area, and I think I should have toggle ripple turned on, because I'm going to drag this out a little bit, and that way the other one will drag with it. And I'm going to pull out a little overlapping part on these for between these two sections. I would like to be able to kind of add a little bit more overlap between these two clips. So if I look at it, he's recovering, and then he's going to run. And hopefully that gives me a little bit more. So he's hit, and then he recovers. It's still a little fast, I think. I could, yeah, it's still a little bit abrupt. I think it needs a little bit more. So again, I'll pull it out, use this same one to add a little bit extra on both of them. And maybe it goes really far over that first clip. Let's just see what that looks like. That's better. It's getting better. So he idles a couple times, he crouches, he gets hit, then he recovers, and then he runs. So you know, I could maybe add something, a different run clip between the getting hit and the fast run. I'm going straight to the fast run clip, and I could find a medium run clip or a slow run clip and sort of insert it in there, and that might create an even smoother transition from the getting hit, recovering your balance, and then running. So that's how you put your clips together in here. And once I have a full clip like this, I want to save it out. And the way you're going to save it out is you're going to bake it. So let me just do a file save scene here. And I'm going to drag a selection box over everything. And I'm going to go up to bake in the time editor. And I'm going to do a bake to new clip and delete. And so now I have a new clip there and a new clip down here that says baked anim source. And I can double click that and I'll call it, let's call it Surfer Dude Sequence 1. Enter. So now I can delete this, and if we pull this up into the window, I'll just set it at 0 here. You can see it's all there. And that's my entire clip. So I would like to be able to take this Surfer Dude Sequence 1 and I need to save it out, export it out, because I'm going to need to use that as a source for driving my control rig on this character that I have to create next. So the last thing, once you get your, I just also want to mention that I made a sequence out of this. I could bring in more clips, make another sequence, add it to this sequence, mix it with this sequence. You can do as much as you want, and then ultimately you're going to want to save the final sequence out as an FBX file. So I'm going to select it here. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to export selected and open up the options, and I want to use the FBX option. I could do a thumbnail play blast, but I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm just going to do export, and I'll give it a name, Surfer Dude. Let's see, Surfer Dude Race Sequence 1. There we go. Export it out. It's going to go, I want to make a note of where it's going to. It's going into the project time editor folder and in a clip exports folder. So I'll go ahead and export that as an FBX file. Okay, so let's put a 2 on it instead of 1, and I'll export it because I apparently have one with the same name already in there. So I'll export that, and that should be in that folder now. And I can go out to my folders and go to my project, and if I look inside of that time editor folder, clip exports, there it is right there. So that's going to be important for the next step, which is going to be to create a control rig and a character on this model, human IK character and a human IK control rig, and then bake that sequence onto the control rig. And we're going to do that in the next video. So first, get your sequences done and get them mixed and saved and exported out as an FBX file. And then we can put that on the character to finalize it. And the control rig is going to be important because that's going to let you actually fix problems that and customize on top of the motion capture sequence that you just made. All right, I'll see you in the next video.